Hello everyone and welcome to another YouTube video. Today we'll be looking at the most broken addition to Valorant's new roster coming out very recently, and that is none other than Gekko. Gekko's abilities have very quickly shown themselves to be quite strong. However, they do have individual weaknesses that are very unique to the character, which you probably won't see ever again, as Riot wants to keep a unique output of character design, but we will talk about him nonetheless. Notable Gekko players currently are every single pro player or like big streamer you can think of, because everyone wants to abuse him whilst he's still overpowered, as well as Keo doing a speedrun with How to Noodle, showing how you can climb with Gekko by combining his abilities with different characters in the game. So, without further ado, we'll be following the standard procedure of going C, Q, E, and X if you have changed your buttons, bindings, or play with different setup. That will be Mosh Pit, Wingman, Dizzy, and Gekko's ultimate Thrash. Starting with probably one of the most misused abilities in the entirety of Gekko's kit. Every Gekko player, with a few exceptions I've seen, doesn't ever actually use Mosh for its intended purpose. But what is Mosh? Mosh is a long distance or close traveling molly that works a little bit like Chaos Molly. After a short delay, it will explode, dealing exactly 150 damage regardless of where you are standing. If you're standing at the center of Mosh Pit or on the edge, it will deal 150 damage regardless. The ability also is very wide, covering a large surface, and I'm sure this is intended as to counteract the fact that he only has one Mosh Pit to work with. Mosh is an incredible post-plant tool because, much like Chaos Molly, it travels through walls, meaning that if you have a setup on Split, for example, you can chuck your molly behind the wall, have it explode, and then have it act behind the wall, dealing significant damage to anyone trying to defuse the spike. Most people will try to use this at choke points, but this molly isn't as effective as choke points because it does not deal damage over time. Viper's mollies and Killjoy mollies are much more effective at that because they will constantly be dealing damage as soon as they are popped, whereas Mosh Pit only really has one chance at dealing damage. The fear of Mosh Pit is sort of like playing chicken. You want to stay and defuse, but you know if you let the ability explode, you will die. And just to display it, if I was to chuck Mosh Pit on the bots, you can see that all the bots die regardless of where they are in correlation to the molly itself. Going on to Wingman, probably one of the cutest abilities ever to be added to Valorant. Wingman will travel in a straight line. It mimics a lot the Raze Boombot ability, which is why, funnily enough, Raze was nerfed. Raze was nerfed because they added the Boombot into the game for a different character. He has a massive area cone of detection where if you let him go, as you can see, even though I was aiming very far away from them, yeah, the Wingman already spotted them. The cone of detection is genuinely massive. It should also be noted that the ability travels for a very long time. I do believe it goes on for 10 seconds. And much like Raze's Boombot, it can bounce off walls multiple times before it breaks. It should be noted that with the exception of Mosh, every single one of Gekko's abilities can be picked up. The caveat with using Wingman is the fact that if he does see an enemy, you can actually dodge the stun by walking towards him and to the right. So if I was to display it, I'll send him that way. As he turns around, he will come back here, I think. Never mind. How can I get him to bounce? There you go. I'll send him on his way. As he comes back, I'll show you how you can dodge the stun. My god, I suck at this. Alright, let's try this one more time. That pipe is gonna be the death of me. Come on. Walk this way. Thank you. As you can see, you can run towards him and to the side, and you are actually able to dodge the stun. I did it a bit late there. But if he sees you and you clash with him, you can dodge the stun, as it will pop regardless of your positioning. And that's true for most of Gekko's abilities. You can dodge his abilities. Dizzy is also very cute. I should probably not move on to him before talking about the fact that Wingman can plant the spike for you. This is why it's really important for Gekko to have the spike. If Wingman... Let me just get to the zone where I can show you this really quick. Well, to be fair, we could do it both ways because Gecko can defuse and plant the spike. So if I was just gonna show you now, hopefully it works because the range seems to be a completely different entity compared to the actual game itself. Let's just take these guys out really quick. That's one there and one there. We can send a wingman, and if you right click, the wingman will go and defuse for you, and he'll do it in a very adorable way where he is just sitting on the spike and defusing the spike for you. Once the spike has been defused, the wingman pops off and he dies. Wingman can be stopped by raise nades, raise satchels, mollies, and anything else that would kill anyone else that is defusing the spike. But what kind of monster would want to kill this adorable little guy? It should be noted that if you're the enemy, there's nothing quite as terrifying as hearing the waddle waddle noises this ability makes as he runs towards you, ready to ruin your day. Wingman can also plant the spike. Just to display. Now that I have the spike, all I gotta do is get rid of the bots in this area. Just quickly dispatch them. There's one there and one there. You can right click to have him plant the spike, and you can actually choose where the spike is planted. He will just pop off, start planting it as you would, and then he'll pop down. This is the moment where you would be playing post plant. When you see someone go to defuse, you just chuck the molly, take out the enemies, and as you can see, the molly pops, dealing exactly 150 damage, and you can send a wingman on his way to stun the enemy, and then you get an easy kill. Hey presto. So there we have all of Wingman's abilities on display. It should be noted he is a very, very powerful tool, as he does sort of function like a sixth teammate when it comes to planting and defusing the spike. And in a game where it seems like no one ever wants to do anything with the spike, having Wingman is amazing. Dizzy is Gecko's signature ability. Is this adorable little armadillo looking thing that is constantly tired, but when you move he actually wakes up. There you go, see? And now he's ready for action. When Dizzy is launched, he travels in a cone, or an arc rather. He has a 1 second delay before activation, and that is actually quite noticeable because if I let the Dizzy go, you will see up until he's covered by that defensive orb around him, he is actually not able to be activated. Dizzy, much like every other recon ability in the game, can be destroyed in one bullet from every source, including a classic shot. Dizzy is a unique flash added to the game, as regardless of where Dizzy is, he will flash the enemies. He has an infinite range and an infinite flash. Although his flash lasts a bit shorter than most flashes in the game, it lasts I think a total of 1 second before the flash goes down. That's about a second and a half of being flashed. And it's not a full screen flash, but rather your screen gets covered in a sludge-like substance. It should be noted that you can actually flash allies, because if they get in the way of Dizzy's flash, they will be flashed as well. One thing to note for everyone to be worried of is that if you launch Dizzy in a bad direction, he will keep flying and he can actually get stuck on surfaces like so. Once he's stuck up there, I don't know if they've patched it or not, but once he's stuck up there, he cannot be retrieved. Apparently, that's not a solid surface. He can also only flash every single enemy once during the ability's lifetime, and as you can see, he can be picked up as well. Fun fact, you cannot turn Dizzy's flash. He will flash you regardless of whether you are looking at the ability or not. However, you can strafe it. If someone was to launch Dizzy out, and you were to be moving to the left, you can actually strafe the flash, and as you can see, I just flashed myself by standing in line of sight of the enemy. I can't display it because I can't move fast enough, but if you were to move, it is actually a strafable ability. You just have to trust me. It's very unique in the sense that if you don't pick up any of Gecko's abilities, you lose them. And he's the only character to do so, as most characters either only have 2 charges, or they will gain back these charges after a few seconds. Once you've picked up an ability, it goes on a flat 10-second cooldown, regardless of how many times you've used it. So the main thing about Gecko is making sure that if you are going to use an ability, you use it in an area where you can get back to it very easily. He's a very commitment heavy character to where if anyone sees you grabbing an orb, you will die. It takes exactly the same amount of time as grabbing a regular power orb to claim your little drones. It's about 3 seconds, I believe. So if you're playing Gecko, it's very important that you make sure that if you want to use Dizzy or Wingman, they will land at a point where you are safe to pick them back up again. And that's the biggest mistake I see Gecko players playing. They're not ready to commit to a side, but they will use their abilities like this, wait for them to go down, and by the time they actually push, everyone else's flashes has run out and they end up getting gunned down. Thrash is a very unique ability, being this hyperactive, adorable little fish thing. Thrash has 150 HP and functions a lot like Sky's dogs. The only difference being actually that you don't need to press forward to use him. That's quite interesting, I've never noticed that. Oh, Thrash is a she, that's new. Learn something new every day. Thrash, as you can see, can also be picked up and goes on a flat 10-second cooldown. Once those 10 seconds are over, Thrash can be used again. And you can launch him, and wherever he lands, he will actually deactivate or disable or detain every single character. I can't show you that on the bots because the bots can't be detained, but you just have to take my word for it. Another thing that should be noted is that Thrash can be activated early by pressing left click again so to catch people off guard, as well as Thrash being able to disable allies. So you need to be very careful when using him. The detain doesn't last as long as a killjoy detain because of how quickly he can be picked up and she can be picked up and reactivated. But it should be noted that you don't want to detain your allies anyways, because 1, you'll get banned for toxicity, and 2, you might put them in a very, very unfortunate spot where they will die. Once again, you should be wary that Thrash can be destroyed. Enough bullets and he will go down. So she also needs to be used in a very smart way where the enemy will not really have enough time to destroy them. That has been Gecko. If you guys have any other tips, tricks, or advice you'd like to add about the character, please make sure to do so in the comments down below. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Goodbye.